For the second time in 2 weeks, the Buckeyes have a postponed basketball game. Sevyn Banks decides it's time for him to enter the transfer portal, and things to watch tomorrow in the Senior Bowl. All that and more right here on Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Friday, February 4th in the year 2022, and I want to thank every person out there for making Locked On Buckeyes their first listen of every single day. The podcast is free and available on all platforms. For the second time in a 2-week span, the Ohio State Buckeyes have a postponed basketball game. This one started, or the thought of this one getting postponed, began on Wednesday evening. The Iowa Hawkeyes had a little mechanical issue with their plane flying out on Wednesday to get to Columbus. They had to postpone all of their plans to leave Iowa until Wednesday morning. Of course, we all know what happened Wednesday into Thursday and all day on Thursday. Snow, and a whole lot more snow. Early on Thursday morning, it got announced that Iowa would not be making the trip to Columbus for this basketball game, and the Buckeyes have another postponed basketball game. To date, this is 5 basketball games that were not played when they were originally scheduled. Go back to December, you had the UT Martin game, the New Orleans game, and the Kentucky game. The Kentucky game was a neutral site game in Vegas, the CBS Sports Classic. All of those got canceled. One of those 3 was made up, but not with the team that it was originally scheduled with. IUPUI came and got smacked in Columbus last month. And then on the 22nd, I believe, was it the 22nd? I believe it was on the 22nd, correct, of January, Ohio State ended up having a game canceled against Nebraska due to problems with COVID-19 in Nebraska's basketball program. And then now this was not due to the COVID. This was just due to mechanical issues and Mother Nature just calling the shots. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. I went through all that to let you know exactly what has gone on with the Ohio State Buckeyes basketball team this year. I can't remember a time in any season where there have been 2 postponements or even 3 cancellations. And now all of these protocols are put in place. Now, you can't really do much of Mother Nature. That's just going to happen. But it sucks because you don't think about the cause of why these things are happening. You think about, man, another game that's not being played. Ohio State and the Big Ten and Nebraska, they're in talks about possibly rescheduling that game that was supposed to be played in January on the 21st of this month. You're getting into the final part of the season. There's a lot of things going on. Not much time to rearrange schedules, to reschedule games that have been postponed. I was looking at Iowa's basketball schedule to see if they could reschedule that game in this season. I just don't see how it's going to happen without rearranging things and maybe pulling opponents off of schedules and saying, hey, Ohio State is more important than Ohio State and Rutgers. I mean, that's kind of what's going to happen if the Big Ten wants to end up rescheduling games that have been postponed. It absolutely sucks. I have been at times places where games can't be played due to Mother Nature. It sucks, but I was a kid. There was not a championship on the line. There were not postseason awards on the line. There were not those things there. I was playing rec league soccer. Remember one time that the game got canceled due to rain and the field was flooded. You just can't play. That's a different story. Then when you have kids that are on scholarship, a coach who's making millions, players that are trying to play professionally overseas, and they need these moments, they need these games to raise their draft stock or make a name for themselves, really show the world that they are a quality athlete and competitor to play at the next level. Yes, basketball, they play lots of games, but you never know that one game that was canceled or postponed could be the one game where one player goes off or a scout is there from a team overseas and they're like, I want that guy. I want him right now because of what he saw while he was there watching that individual play the basketball. I feel sorry for every individual involved, from the players at Iowa, for the players at Ohio State, for the coaches from both teams. I feel sorry for them. Snow days are fun. Snow days are enjoyable. Snow days are a part of life. I know kids nowadays, a lot of them are doing the e-learning. And so it's not so much that they're at home playing in the snow all day. They're at home going to school. And so when most of us grew up, we had snow days. And snow days are fun. Why? Because you had nothing to do. You'd wake up, eat your breakfast, your mom or dad would be home, or you go to your friend's house because your parents had to go to work. And it was a snow day. What did you do? You played outside. You enjoyed all of that. And those things are fun. Now, that was us back then. I'm not that old, but that was us back then. Times have changed. Technology has changed. Things have improved in a certain way that snow days aren't what they used to be. Snow days aren't the ideal thing that you would want them to be. A snow day is okay, but a snow day with a canceled game, postponed game, it's not fun at all. I think EJ Liddell ended up tweeting out saying something like, can't catch a break. Remember, when you have 5 games that are not played when they're originally scheduled, you don't look at the cause or the root of why that thing was canceled or postponed. You just look at the big number in totality. Man, that's number 5, man. Can we just play basketball? Like, I came here to play ball. Yes, I'm going to school. Yes, I'm going to be going to the NBA next year. But all I want to do right now is play the basketball. Ohio State had another postponement. It sucks. Absolutely sucks. I hope this game gets rescheduled. I don't see how it's going to be able to happen based off looking at both schools' schedules and the Big Ten really rearranging a lot of things, but it can happen. The Big Ten is constantly working and trying to put their brains together to make all of these things work. Even if they don't, Iowa and Ohio State could meet in the Big Ten Conference Championship, and I do think that will be a game that everyone wants to watch. You are tuned in to Locked On Buckeyes here on a Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's Super Week, brought to you by Get Upside. And there's no better place to get coverage of the big game than the Locked On NFL podcast. Locked On Bengals and Locked On Rams are in LA all week long, and they're covering the big game. Ohio State had a lot of players into the transfer portal recently, from Dallas Gant and Kayvon Pope entering during the season, to Quinn Ewers going at the end of, shortly after the Michigan loss, he entered the transfer portal, Jack Miller III, Craig Young, so on and so forth. The Ohio State Buckeyes have had numerous players enter the portal, and now there's one more, Sevyn Banks, a player that I was really looking forward to watching play the football one more year at The Ohio State University. I knew that he went to the senior day festivities, but I was still hoping there was a small chance, that he would return to The Ohio State University, but that's not going to happen. He ended up posting on his Twitter page a little comment, and it was a tweet about his decision to go to enter the transfer portal right now. I'm going to read a little bit of this to you just to get more insight into what he said and his mindset right now. Quote, "First and always, I give thanks to God for blessing me with amazing strength and tenacity through all these things. Due to this injury, I will be withdrawing from the 2022 NFL draft. At this time, I am very grateful that my rehab is going great, to which I will continue getting stronger by the day, preparing for the 2022 NCAA football season and the 2023 NFL draft. To Buckeye Nation, I will be entering the NCAA transfer portal, leaving my options open to wherever God leads me to dominate into a greater chapter of my college career, whether it's here at The Ohio State or going beyond," end quote. I do think it's interesting that at the end of that, he did leave it open that it's a possibility for him to return to Ohio State. Looking at the current roster and the current breakdown, if you remember I think it was earlier this week, we gave a projection of Ohio State's defensive depth chart, and Sevyn Banks was not there. That was because the day before, like the day I was putting that together, Ryan Day said he had a meeting with Sevyn Banks and his family, and Sevyn Banks was considering transferring and not coming back to Ohio State. Moving on from Ohio State was the phrase that Ryan Day used. He's not returning. It's not fun. I think Sevyn Banks could have a phenomenal part of this upcoming defense, but with Cam Brown and Denzel Burke playing on the outside and that nickel corner not being the ideal, or I say nickel corner, cover safety role, or the strong safety that's closer to being inside of the box, that role, with that role not being the same role it was for Shaun Wade a few years ago, it's really, really tricky to figure out where Sevyn Banks plays if he's trying to go and enter the 2023 NFL draft. Think back to before the season. Those of you that were here before the football season, Ryan Roberts from riseanddraft.com, he ended up coming on, NFL Scout, ended up coming on, and I said I saw first round draft potential from Sevyn Banks going into last season. Ryan said he didn't see it. And Ryan's one of the better NFL scouts that's out there, NFL draft scouts. I'll be on here soon. I got to reach out to him to get him back on the podcast to talk about guys like Jeremy Ruckert, Haskell Garrett, Master Teague, those guys that are entering the NFL draft. I think it's ideal and it's wise for Sevyn Banks to transfer because, as I just mentioned, there's no starting role for him. That nickel corner spot's not there. And so if you're going to stay at Ohio State, you're going to be a backup. And the way that Burke and Brown play, they're not really coming off of the field, which I think is how it should be. I don't know if Ohio State's going to really run many dime packages to where Banks could come on the field. So his playing time is limited. Now, granted, he did deal with injuries last year, which sucks. It's really unfortunate. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles. This is football. It's a violent game. It's a game that if you're not ready, if you're not prepared, if your body has some nicks and some dings that derail you at the time, you could find yourself on the outside of the playing field instead of on the inside where you want to be. There are numerous places around the country that would take Sevyn Banks. There are numerous secondary coaches or cornerback coaches or defensive coordinators that I believe would love the services of Sevyn Banks because Sevyn Banks has two things in mind. One, he wants to play. And if I'm Sevyn Banks, I absolutely want to play as well. But also, two, he wants to go to the NFL draft. I think that would be your goal if you were Sevyn Banks. I think that would be my goal as well. He wants to go to the NFL draft. And so in his mind, he has a decision to make. Is the best path for me to get to the NFL draft, is it for me to stay at Ohio State, or is it to go elsewhere? If I go elsewhere, if I go that route, is it to go and stay at the high level Power 5 role in that position, in that trajectory of college football? Is it to go to another Power 5 school, but even like a lower level to where I can immediately play? There's no competition. I'm immediately getting on the field. Say maybe if you're Big Ten, Indiana, or a Rutgers, or a Maryland, where you're not really playing. You're not going to be playing in these big time bowl games, but it's a place you can go and play right away. Or Sevyn Banks, is it for him to go down to a mid-major? Sevyn Banks has played well at the high level, Power 5 level. Nobody can say that he has played well. There are also things in his game that needed to improve. That goes with everybody. I don't care if you're Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, Master Teague, Travion Henderson. I don't care who you are. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. There are things in everybody's game in college that need to improve. And we're seeing that right now with Sevyn Banks in his thought process, his mindset. And I firmly think he's got some wise counsel. He's talked to some wise people in his life because I know how hard it is when you're thinking about playing an extra year of college football, a year that was granted to you via the NCAA due to the COVID rule, and you getting a free year of college football, which is great for him. Because if you think about Sevyn Banks and what has happened to him while playing the football, last year technically could have been a redshirt year. Technically, so he could have played again. Could have been a medical redshirt. He only played 4 games. So due to the current redshirt rules, that could have been a redshirt year for him, but it was not. And so now you're looking at, I get an extra year to play. That's great. What is the best fit for me? That's for him to decide. That's for all these coaches to reach out to him. I'm sure Ryan Day would love to have Sevyn Banks on the roster, but maybe this could be a blessing in disguise. Ohio State is currently over the 85 scholarship limit that is required, or where you have to be under that scholarship limit. That's an NCAA requirement. And Ryan Day knew, I think at one point they were at 92 scholarship players. Ryan Day knew that over time, things would kind of work themselves out, or he believes things would have to work themselves out, so he does not have to cut players or remove scholarships, so he's simply under that limit. One of those dominoes is Sevyn Banks. Yes, he did leave the door open for him to return to Ohio State, but I don't see that happening. I don't at all. He's too talented. There are too many college football teams out there. There are too many teams that need an experienced cornerback like Sevyn Banks to come in. There are too many places where Sevyn Banks can go to raise his draft stock. There are too many ideal places for him right now. I do believe, though, with Sevyn Banks, I firmly believe that he is moving in the right direction to help himself and to raise his draft stock. Because if he went to the NFL draft right now, I would probably guess he's either a late day 3 pick, round 6 or round 7, or maybe even an undrafted free agent simply because of the injuries. And he didn't really play that well this year. Granted, when you're coming off of an injury and you're trying to get your feet wet and you're trying to get back on the field and all these other guys are in game shape, game speed, game mode, and you're trying to get up to their level, it's really hard to do that right there on the fly. Sevyn Banks transferring, entering the portal, it's not the end of the world. It's nothing crazy. It's just life. He's somebody that I'm looking forward to watching play next year. If he comes back to Ohio State, great. I'll enjoy watching him be a Buckeye for one more year. If he goes somewhere else, which is what I think he will do, great. I'll enjoy watching him play anywhere in the country, unless he goes to play for that team up north. I'll root for him on the inside, but on Twitter, I'll be highly upset if he picks off Stroud 1, 2, or even 3 times while they're both on the field. Thank you for listening to Locked On Buckeyes here on a Friday, a feel-good Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. A quick reminder for those of you on the YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button, you hit that bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live, and make sure you hit the like button on this video and every video on this channel. For all of you that are audio podcast listeners, thank you as well. Make sure you hit that follow button or subscribe, depending on the app you're currently utilizing. Apple Podcast listeners, fill up the review section with 5-star reviews. Leave the comments there as well. It's a great free way to help more people partake and enjoy the Locked On Buckeyes podcast every Monday through Friday. From a postponement of a basketball game to a player leaving the NFL draft to going to the transfer portal to 3 Buckeyes playing in the Senior Bowl tomorrow. The game is at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. I believe it's on the NFL Network. Jeremy Ruckert, Tyreke Smith, Haskell Garrett. They have completed 3 days of Senior Bowl practice. They have completed numerous media availability appearances, and now the game is tomorrow. Remember how I talked about at the beginning of the week that this is a huge, huge interview process for them? This is the only part of it, because Ohio State's still going to have their pro day. So, yes, this is a big piece of it, but Ohio State's going to have their pro day, which I do believe, and I would expect all 32 NFL teams to come to Columbus for that pro day. Even if the team thinks they might not draft a certain player, you never know what's going to happen when you go to an Ohio State pro day, because these guys are immensely talented. Haskell Garrett on Thursday, he was the talk of the town on the Twitter. He ended up going up against, I forget the player's last name, but a guard from the University of Michigan. The guard got the better of him. The guard ended up pulling down the face mask and pulling Haskell Garrett to the ground. But one thing Haskell Garrett did in this, and I do think, talking about the interview process, this is something people are going to watch and talk about for months until the NFL draft. Haskell Garrett was a 3 technique on this play, outside shade of the guard. I think it was a right guard at this time. And Haskell Garrett took an inside move. Well, he kind of had a T-Rex arm or a short arm in him with the left arm. His right arm was free. And when the guard ended up reaching up, and I don't know if it was on purpose or on accident, but pulling down the face mask of Haskell Garrett never got his right arm re-engaged, either to go to the armpit or to the side of the shoulder pad. I would have gone armpit and ripped under to get through to the quarterback. But Haskell Garrett never was able to get his right arm re-engaged. I think one of the weirdest moves was he took an inside move and he kind of got stuck. He kind of got locked because the right guard, number 71, ended up winning that route, winning that part from the very, very beginning. Off the line, he was quicker. His footwork was better. Power moves were better. I mean, he just won that completely. But in a moment like this, when all eyes are on you during a one-on-one drill, this is something people are going to talk about. Haskell Garrett, Jeremy Ruckert, Tyreke Smith are using this week to raise their draft stock. And I do believe all three of them need to or can raise their draft stock. There's a reason why Haskell Garrett is toward, if you're in a group of 150, you're naming, you're listing all the draft prospects, your big board, there's a reason why Haskell Garrett is toward the bottom of the group of 150. Quickness, durability. Haskell Garrett also got injured on that play. Excuse me. That he ended up losing to the right guard from the University of Michigan. He ended up losing that rep. People want to see that. But this also goes back to things that we saw during the season. Yes, a week of practice cannot erase 2, 3, or 4 years of film for anybody. But it can reaffirm some things that they have seen while watching the film on you from your playing days while at, for these gentlemen, The Ohio State University. Haskell Garrett during that play kind of got some shades of what was happening during the season, but this isn't over. You got a pro day. I don't think he's invited to the NFL Combine. I could be mistaken with that, but I don't believe any of these three gentlemen are invited to the NFL Combine. We'll see more about that coming up either next week or the week after in Indianapolis for the NFL Combine, if any of them are there. But Ruckert, Garrett, Smith, tomorrow in the Senior Bowl, some things they can do that we can watch to look forward to while they're actually playing the football. Are they competing? And I'm not saying are they winning every rep, but are they competing? Because competing or not competing, once again, these can be confirmations of things that they have seen, that these scouts, executives, coaches have seen from your film, from your playing days at The Ohio State University. If you compete during all of these reps in the games, in the regular season games, in the bowl games, and then all of a sudden, when you're at the Senior Bowl practice, you're not competing, you're not playing through the whistle, you're not being that player that has the same motor that they saw during the season, that's going to be a question mark. Does he know what's going on? Does he know what this can do to his draft stock? Does he know what this can do to him and the team that he may go to? These are all questions that may come if you're not competing like you did during the season. Now, if you're competing in a different way, a little bit harder, okay, cool. Like I'm Bill Belichick. Like, I get it. He's going to be a little bit nervous, but he's also going to work a little bit harder because I'm right here in front of him. And so these are all things that can go forward. But then also, are you consistently winning your matchup? Because one way to pop off the screen, pop off the field with I heard there's over 900 credentialed media members that are down there in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl practices and game. I mean, that's a crazy, crazy number. One way to make your name for yourself in a day like this is to consistently win. Consistently win off the line of scrimmage, Jeremy Ruckert. Consistently beat the guy. Consistently win at the middle part of your route. Consistently separate and catch the ball. Tyreke Smith, use your motor. Yeah, you may be a little bit undersized for a defensive end. Use your motor. Use your speed. If you got some power, use that as well. Consistently win the battle. Haskell Garrett, leverage is the name of the game. Consistently win your battle, because that's an ideal way for all of these three gentlemen to leave a lasting impact, a great image, lasting permanent image in the minds of these gentlemen, is to consistently win your battle and to always, always, always compete. Certain things are teachable. Certain things are coachable. You do those two things, you might not be the best out there, but a coach or a coordinator might say, I can work with that. I can work with that. I'm going to write his name down, get his phone number, and talk to him later because I can work with that. I like what I have seen from not just one of these gentlemen, but from all three. And it might be a fit for all three of them on one team if they do those two things. Guys, closing up shop. It's a feel-good Friday. Looking outside of my window, there's still snow out there. Looking outside your window, there's probably snow out there in front of you as well. Let's just enjoy it. Snow doesn't come around all the time. Enjoy the snow. If you're a kid listening to this, have fun. Tell mom and dad you're going to go out there and play in the snow, jump in the snow, make snow angels, all of the fun things that kids want to do in the snow. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can send all of your emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. That's it for the week. I'll be watching the Senior Bowl tomorrow. The Buckeyes have a basketball game on Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS. I surely hope that game is played. I want to watch them play, and I want to enjoy this weekend. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy the weather. It's cold, but we can still enjoy it and watch some football and basketball at the same time.